Alara's mind raced. Her father had always viewed Victor Thorne with suspicion. A ruthless competitor known for his aggressive, often unethical, business tactics. The idea that Marcus was working with him, not just against her, but against the very company her father had built, was a new level of betrayal. "It's all going according to plan, darling," Serena's voice purred, laced with a triumphant glee that sent a chill down Alara's spine. "The illness has weakened her considerably. No one will suspect a thing." Mr. Chen, cross-referencing this new information with her father's old files, found a series of detailed risk assessments her father had conducted years ago, specifically on Victor Thorne and his company. Among them was a hidden file, labeled Contingency Thorne. It contained meticulously documented evidence of Thorne Industries' past attempts at corporate espionage, insider trading, and even a veiled threat against a former executive who had refused to cooperate. Alara froze, her hand hovering over the doorknob. Illness. She had been suffering from a mysterious, debilitating sickness for months, one Marcus had dismissed as stress, insisting she rest and trust his care. "Your father suspected something like this, Miss Alara," Mr. Chen stated, his voice grim. He always kept a close eye on Thorne. He even had a mole within Thorne Industries, a disgruntled former employee who provided him with this information. Then came Marcus's voice, cold and devoid of any warmth. "Soon, my dear. Soon. All of Alara's assets will be ours. Vance Industries will finally be mine. Entirely. And then, we can truly begin our life together, with Adrian as the rightful heir." The mole, a man named David Miller, had since retired, but his contact information was in the file. Alara immediately instructed Liam to find him. David Miller, initially hesitant, agreed to meet after Liam presented him with irrefutable proof of Marcus's and Victor Thorne's current collusion. Anya's breath hitched. Marcus, Serena, her cousin, her confidant, her supposed friend, and Adrian, her son. Miller revealed a chilling truth. Marcus had approached Victor Thorne shortly after Alara's father's death, offering to act as an inside man. Their plan was to systematically devalue Vance Industries through strategic mismanagement and insider trading, making it vulnerable for a hostile takeover by Thorne at a drastically reduced price. Once the takeover was complete, Marcus would be rewarded with a significant stake in the new, merged entity, and Serena would receive a substantial payout from Thorne for her role in facilitating the internal chaos. Adrian, of course, would be set for life. "And Adrian is fully on board?" Serena asked, a hint of doubt in her tone. This wasn't just about Alara's inheritance anymore. This was about a massive corporate conspiracy, a calculated act of sabotage that would destroy her father's legacy and harm countless employees and shareholders. The murder plot was merely a means to an end, a way to remove Alara, the legal obstacle, from their path to ultimate power. "He's more than on board, he's eager," Marcus chuckled, a sound that made Alara's stomach churn with revulsion. "He hates her quiet ways, her old-fashioned values. He wants the wealth, the power, without her sentimental baggage. He even suggested the final push." The revelation was a powerful new weapon in Alara's arsenal. It transformed her personal quest for revenge into a fight for corporate justice. Marcus and Serena weren't just murderers. They were traitors, willing to sell out Vance Industries for their own gain. And Adrian, her son, was complicit in this grander scheme. Alara's world shattered. Her husband, her cousin, and her own son. They were plotting her murder, for her money. The illness wasn't accidental. It was poison, slow, insidious, designed to weaken her, to make her death seem natural. Alara felt a cold, determined resolve settle within her. She now had the means, the evidence, and the allies to not just take back her assets, but to expose the entire web of lies and bring down not only Marcus, Serena, and Adrian, but also Victor Thorne and his corrupt empire. The stakes had never been higher, and the game was about to enter its final, most dangerous phase. The net was closing in, and her enemies were completely unaware of the true extent of the power she now wielded, armed with the chilling revelations of Marcus's corporate espionage and Victor Thorne's complicity. Alara knew the time for subtlety was over. The net was closing in, and it was time to set the trap that would ensnare not just Marcus, Serena, and Adrian, but also the powerful Victor Thorn. Her hidden billions, once a passive inheritance, were now a strategic weapon, ready to be deployed. A wave of nausea washed over her, mingled with a burning rage so intense it threatened to consume her. She stumbled back, hitting a small vase, which clattered to the floor. Elara, Liam, and Mr. Chen meticulously planned their next moves. The goal was to create a cascade of events that would expose their enemies' crimes to the authorities and the business world, leaving them no room to escape. The voices inside immediately ceased. Panic seized Elara. She had been discovered. Their first strategic move was financial. Elara, through her discreet offshore accounts, began to subtly manipulate the stock of Vance Industries. She initiated a series of large, carefully timed sell-offs, designed to create a perception of instability and undervaluation. This would make Vance Industries appear ripe for a hostile takeover, exactly as Marcus and Thorne had planned. But it would also trigger alarms within the financial regulatory bodies. The study door burst open. Marcus stood there, his face initially startled, then hardening into a mask of chilling indifference. Serena appeared behind him, her eyes wide with feigned concern, quickly replaced by a cold, predatory glint. "This will make Marcus and Thorne overconfident," Liam explained, watching the stock charts on his multiple screens. "They'll think their plan is working perfectly, and they'll accelerate their moves, making them more reckless." "Elara, what are you doing here?" Marcus asked, his voice deceptively calm. Simultaneously, Elara used her reclaimed assets to discreetly acquire a significant, but not controlling, stake in Thorne Industries. This gave her an insider's view of their operations, and, more importantly, a platform to subtly leak incriminating information to key shareholders and board members who were unaware of Victor Thorne's illicit dealings. Elara couldn't speak. Her throat was constricted by betrayal, her mind reeling from the horrifying truth. Mr. Chen, leveraging his extensive network, began to prepare the legal groundwork. He discreetly contacted a few trusted, high-ranking officials within the financial regulatory bodies, providing them with anonymous tips about suspicious trading patterns and potential corporate espionage involving Vance Industries and Thorne Industries. He ensured the tips were just vague enough to pique their interest, but precise enough to guide their investigations. "She heard," Serena whispered, her smile a cruel twist. "She heard everything." The pressure on Marcus and Serena began to mount. The minor disruptions to Serenity Styles escalated, now causing significant financial losses and attracting the attention of their lenders. Marcus, already stressed by the fluctuating stock of Vance Industries, became increasingly paranoid. He suspected internal leaks, blaming his own employees, and even Serena, for the setbacks. Marcus's eyes narrowed. A pity. It would have been so much cleaner. He stepped towards her, his hand reaching for her, not in comfort, but with a terrifying purpose. "Someone is targeting us." "Marcus!" Serena shrieked, her voice frantic, as another major deal for Serenity Styles inexplicably fell through. This isn't bad luck anymore. Elara tried to run, but her body, weakened by months of slow poisoning, betrayed her. Her legs buckled. Marcus grabbed her, his grip like iron. Serena moved swiftly, a syringe appearing in her hand. Marcus, blinded by his greed and confidence in his alliance with Thorne, dismissed her fears. He believed the market fluctuations in Vance Industries were merely part of their plan to devalue the company. He pushed Victor Thorne to accelerate the hostile takeover, eager to finalize their deal and claim his reward. "Good night, dear cousin," Serena purred, her voice dripping with false sweetness as the needle pierced Elara's skin. Elara, watching them through Liam's surveillance, noted their increasing desperation and recklessness. Marcus began making more overt moves to destabilize Vance Industries, cutting corners, making questionable executive decisions, and even attempting to force out loyal employees who questioned his methods. These actions, meticulously documented by Elara, provided further evidence of his deliberate sabotage. A searing pain, then a cold numbness spread through Elara's veins. Her vision blurred, the opulent ballroom lights fading into a swirling vortex. She saw Marcus's face, devoid of remorse, Serena's triumphant smirk, and then Adrian, her son, stepping into the doorway, his eyes cold, devoid of any love or pity. The final piece of the trap involved David Miller, the former mole from Thorne Industries. Elara, through Mr. Chen, arranged for Miller to accidentally encounter a trusted ethical journalist known for investigative reporting. Miller, guided by Alara's team, subtly hinted at a massive corporate conspiracy involving Thorne Industries and an inside man at Vance Industries, providing just enough breadcrumbs to spark the journalist's interest. "It's about time," Adrian muttered, his voice echoing in her fading consciousness. The net was closing in. Marcus, Serena, and Adrian, along with Victor Thorne, were walking straight into a meticulously planned ambush. They believed they were on the verge of claiming their ultimate prize, unaware that every step they took was leading them deeper into Alara's trap. The Phoenix had set her snare, and the time for the grand reveal, the public confrontation, was imminent. The stage was set. The financial world buzzed with rumors, fueled by Alara's subtle manipulations and Mr. Chen's discreet tips. The investigative journalist, now deeply engrossed, was on the verge of breaking a major story. Marcus, Serena, Adrian, and Victor Thorne, blinded by their impending victory, were walking straight into the meticulously planned ambush. The last thing Alara felt was the agonizing betrayal, the crushing realization that her entire life had been a lie, built on the foundation of their greed. Then, darkness, a cold, calculated death, orchestrated by the very people she had loved and trusted most. Darkness, a suffocating, endless void. Alara drifted, a phantom echo of pain and betrayal, her only companion. She felt nothing, saw nothing. Yet the agony of Marcus's cold eyes, Serena's triumphant smirk, and Adrian's chilling indifference burned in her non-existent soul. This was death. This was the end. Alara orchestrated the confrontation to coincide with a highly anticipated annual press conference hosted by Vance Industries, where Marcus was expected to announce a major new initiative, a move designed to further devalue the company before Thorne's takeover. This was the perfect platform for their downfall. Alara's eyes snapped open. The first thing she registered was the soft, familiar scent of lavender and old books. She was in her own bed, in her own room, the morning sunlight filtering through the lace curtains. Her head throbbed, a dull ache behind her eyes, and her limbs felt heavy, as if she had been asleep for a very long time. As Marcus stood at the podium, a smug smile on his face, ready to deliver his carefully crafted speech, the doors to the conference hall burst open. A team of federal agents, accompanied by financial regulators, swept in, their presence immediately silencing the buzzing room. Behind them, a phalanx of reporters, led by the investigative journalist, surged forward. Their cameras flashing, she pushed herself up, her muscles protesting. The room was exactly as she remembered it, down to the stack of unread novels on her bedside table. But something was wrong, terribly wrong. Marcus's smile faltered, replaced by a look of stunned disbelief. Serena, seated in the front row, gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Adrian, beside her, looked utterly bewildered. Victor Thorne, who had been observing from the back, his face a mask of calm, suddenly looked uneasy. She stumbled to the full-length mirror, her reflection staring back at her. It was her. Her face, pale and slightly gaunt, but undeniably hers. Yet there was a subtle difference, a vibrancy in her eyes that had been absent for months before her death. Her body, though still weak, didn't feel like it was slowly shutting down. Then Alara walked in. A sudden, dizzying wave of memories crashed over her. The ballroom, the study, the chilling conversation, the syringe, the cold indifference in her husband's and son's eyes, the agonizing betrayal. It was all so vivid, so horrifyingly real. But how could she be here? Alive. In her own bed, she was not the frail, sickly woman they remembered. Dressed in a sharp, elegant suit, her posture radiating an undeniable power, her eyes burning with a cold, unwavering resolve. She looked like a phoenix risen from the ashes. Liam was by her side, a laptop in hand, and Mr. Chen stood a step behind, a stack of legal documents clutched firmly. She glanced at the digital clock on her nightstand. October 26th, the date. Her murder had occurred on October 26th of the following year, a full year from now. She'd gone back in time. It was impossible. A dream. A hallucination brought on by her lingering illness. "Marcus!" Alara's voice rang out, clear and strong, cutting through the stunned silence. "It's over!" She pinched herself. Hard. The sharp pain was undeniable. This was real. She was alive. And she was back. Marcus stared at her, his face paling. Ilara. What is the meaning of this? A cold, burning rage ignited within her, hotter than any fever. The betrayal, the manipulation, the callous disregard for her life. It all coalesced into a singular, consuming purpose. They had murdered her, her husband, her cousin, her son, and they thought they had gotten away with it. The meaning, Ilara replied, stepping forward, her gaze piercing him, is that your web of lies, your betrayal, and your greed have finally caught up to you. She turned to the assembled media and authorities. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Ilara Vance, the rightful owner of Vance Industries, and I'm here to expose a massive conspiracy of corporate espionage, fraud, and attempted murder, orchestrated by my husband, Marcus Sterling, his mistress, Serena Thorne, and their son, Adrian Sterling, in collusion with Victor Thorne, CEO of Thorne Industries. A knock on the door jolted her. Ilara, darling, are you awake? How are you feeling? It was Marcus's voice, laced with feigned concern. The same voice that had plotted her demise. A collective gasp swept through the room. The cameras flashed furiously. Ilara's breath hitched. She looked at her reflection, a new resolve hardening her gaze. The weak, trusting woman they had murdered was gone. In her place was someone else, someone who remembered everything, someone who had been given an impossible second chance. Liam stepped forward, projecting a series of damning images and documents onto the large screen behind the podium. Encrypted communications between Marcus and Victor Thorne, detailing their plan to devalue Vance Industries for a hostile takeover. Financial ledgers showing Marcus siphoning funds and Serena laundering money through Serenity Styles, surveillance footage of Marcus and Serena discussing Ilara's illness and their anticipation of her death, and Adrian's callous remarks. I am fine, Marcus, she called back, her voice surprisingly steady, a calm she didn't feel. Just a bit tired. I'll be down shortly. This evidence, Ilara continued, her voice unwavering, proves that Marcus and Serena systematically poisoned me for months, planning my murder to gain full control of my inheritance. It also proves their collusion with Victor Thorne to orchestrate a hostile takeover of Vance Industries, destroying my father's legacy for their own illicit gain. She listened as his footsteps receded. She was weak. Yes, but the illness that had been slowly killing her was, in this timeline, only just beginning. She had time. Time to understand how this impossible rebirth had occurred. Time to regain her strength, and time to make them pay. She then played a short, chilling audio clip. A recording of Marcus, Serena, and Adrian discussing the final push of her poisoning. Adrian's voice clearly audible, expressing his impatience. The sound filled the room, a horrifying testament to their cruelty. The memory of Adrian's cold eyes, his muttered, "It's about time," fueled her. He was not her son. He was their accomplice. The thought was a searing wound, but it also solidified her resolve. She would not just survive, she would thrive. She would not just seek justice, she would reclaim everything they had stolen. The phoenix had risen from the ashes, and its vengeance would be absolute. The initial shock of rebirth slowly gave way to a chilling clarity. Ilara was alive, a ghost in her own life, armed with the terrifying knowledge of her impending murder. The first priority was to understand the illness that had almost claimed her life, and then to secure her future, a future they believed was theirs for the taking. Marcus lunged forward, his face contorted in a mask of fury and desperation. This is a lie. She's insane. She's been ill for months. She feigned weakness, playing the part of the recovering invalid Marcus expected. She allowed him to fuss over her, his feigned concern a bitter mockery. But beneath her docile exterior, her mind raced, meticulously piecing together fragments of conversations, subtle hints her father had dropped before his death, and her own vague recollections of his business dealings. Her father, a man of immense foresight and caution, had always been wary of Marcus's ambition. Federal agents immediately restrained him. Serena shrieked, her carefully constructed facade crumbling into a terrified mess. Adrian, seeing the evidence, the agents, and the cameras, tried to slip away, but he too was apprehended. Victor Thorne, his face ashen, attempted to blend into the crowd, but the investigative journalist, armed with David Miller's tips, pointed him out, and he was quickly detained. Alara knew her father had built Vance Industries from the ground up, a sprawling empire of diverse assets. When he died, she, as his only child, inherited everything. But she had been too trusting, too focused on her new life with Marcus, to truly understand the intricacies of her inheritance. She had signed documents Marcus presented, believing he was managing her wealth for their shared future. Now, she knew better. The illness was poison, Alara stated, her voice resonating with cold authority. And I am here, alive, to ensure that justice is served. Her first discreet move was to access her father's old study, a room Marcus rarely entered, deeming it too dusty and full of old papers. Alara remembered her father spending hours there, meticulously organizing files, often muttering about contingency plans and diversified portfolios. The room erupted into chaos. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, and the authorities began to lead away the stunned, defeated conspirators, Marcus, Serena, and Adrian. Their faces etched with shock and disbelief, could only stare at Alara, the woman they thought they had murdered, now standing tall, powerful, and utterly triumphant. The truth was out. The web of lies had unraveled, and the architects of her demise were finally exposed. The chaos that erupted in the Vance Industries conference hall was a symphony of justice. Federal agents moved swiftly, securing Marcus, Serena, Adrian, and Victor Thorne. The flashing cameras captured every moment of their stunned disbelief, their faces contorted in a mixture of fury and utter defeat. Alara watched, a cold satisfaction settling in her heart. As the architects of her demise were led away in handcuffs, she found it, hidden behind a loose panel in the bookshelf, a worn leather-bound journal. It was her father's personal ledger, filled with cryptic notes, account numbers, and names of offshore banks and shell corporations. He had anticipated betrayal. He had foreseen Marcus's greed. The aftermath was immediate and devastating for the conspirators. The evidence presented by Alara, meticulously gathered by Liam and corroborated by Mr. Chen's legal expertise, was irrefutable. The audio clip of their chilling conversation, the encrypted messages detailing the corporate espionage, the financial ledgers exposing their fraud, it all painted a damning picture. The journal revealed a staggering truth. Her father had not simply left her a single, easily accessible fortune. He had strategically diversified his wealth, creating a complex web of hidden assets, investments in emerging technologies, and properties across the globe, all meticulously shielded from Marcus's prying eyes. He had known Marcus was only after the visible assets, the ones tied directly to Vance Industries. The true extent of Alara's inheritance was billions, far more than Marcus had ever imagined, hidden in plain sight, waiting for her to claim it. Marcus Sterling, once the ambitious and charming husband, was charged with attempted murder, corporate espionage, fraud, and embezzlement. His carefully constructed reputation crumbled overnight. His assets, including the portion of Vance Industries he had managed to siphon, were immediately frozen, and his personal accounts were seized. He faced a lengthy prison sentence, his life of luxury replaced by the stark reality of a jail cell. The realization was exhilarating, a surge of power coursing through her veins. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming her legacy, her father's legacy, from the hands of the traitors. Serena Thorne, Alara's cousin and Marcus's mistress, faced similar charges. Her Serenity Styles fashion empire, already struggling from Alara's subtle disruptions, collapsed entirely. Her assets were seized, her name dragged through the mud, and she became a pariah in the social circles she had so desperately tried to ascend. Her desperate shrieks and pleas for mercy during her arrest were widely broadcast, a humiliating end to her conniving ambitions. But gaining control was a complex, delicate dance. She couldn't alert Marcus. She needed to move slowly, discreetly, like a spider weaving an invisible web. She began by subtly requesting access to old financial statements and citing a desire to understand her father's genius. Marcus, amused by her sudden interest, readily complied, believing her too naive to truly comprehend the intricate details. Adrian Sterling, Alara's son, was not spared. Despite his youth, the audio recording of his callous remarks and his clear complicity in the murder plot ensured he faced charges as an accomplice to attempted murder and fraud. His future, once destined for inherited wealth and power, was shattered. He was stripped of his inheritance. His academic scholarships were revoked, and he faced a juvenile detention facility, followed by a criminal record that would haunt him for life. The entitled heir was left with nothing but the consequences of his own cruelty. Alara spent countless hours in secret, poring over the journal and the financial documents. She cross-referenced account numbers, deciphered her father's coded notes, and slowly began to unravel the intricate financial labyrinth he had created. It was a daunting task, requiring a sharp mind and an unwavering focus. Victor Thorn, the powerful CEO of Thorn Industries, also faced severe repercussions. The evidence of his collusion with Marcus, his role in the corporate espionage, and his own history of unethical business practices came to light. Thorn Industries' stock plummeted, investors pulled out en masse, and federal investigations were launched into his company's entire operation. He was charged with corporate fraud and conspiracy, his empire crumbling under the weight of his deceit. The man who had once been an untouchable titan of industry was now facing the ruin of his legacy and a potential prison sentence. Her first major step was to contact a specific, discreet Swiss bank mentioned repeatedly in the journal. Using a code phrase her father had written, she initiated contact, revealing herself as the true beneficiary. The bank, bound by strict confidentiality, confirmed the existence of a massive trust fund in her name, established years ago, completely unbeknownst to Marcus. The public reaction was a mixture of shock and fervent support for Alara. Her story, a phoenix rising from betrayal, captured the world's imagination. The media, initially skeptical, now hailed her as a symbol of resilience and justice. The narrative of her illness being poison and her death being a calculated murder plot sent shivers down spines. But her triumphant return offered a powerful message of hope. The process of transferring control, of activating these hidden billions, was slow and required careful legal maneuvering. Alara knew she couldn't do it alone. She needed allies, people she could trust, people who could help her navigate this complex, dangerous path. The awakening of her power was exhilarating, but it also brought with it the chilling realization of the immense task ahead. She was holding billions of assets, but she was still a phoenix in the making, and her enemies were still circling, unaware of the fire that was about to consume them. With the knowledge of her vast, hidden fortune, Alara's resolve solidified. She was no longer just a victim, she was a strategist, a phantom moving through her own life, observing the very people who had plotted her demise. Her immediate goal was to maintain the illusion of her weakness and naivety, to lull Marcus, Serena, and Adrian into a false sense of security, making them believe their plan was progressing flawlessly. Alara watched the news reports, the images of Marcus, Serena, Adrian, and Victor Thorn being led away, their faces etched with despair. There was no joy in their suffering, only a profound sense of closure. Justice had been served. They had taken everything from her. But now, they had lost everything themselves. The empires built on deceit had crumbled, and the scales of justice, though slow, had finally balanced. The path was now clear for Alara to reclaim her legacy and build a new future, free from the shadows of their betrayal. With Marcus, Serena, Adrian, and Victor Thorn facing the full force of the law, the path was finally clear for Alara to reclaim what was rightfully hers. The public disgrace of her betrayers had sent a clear message: justice, though delayed, had been served. Now, it was time for the Phoenix to rise fully from the ashes and rebuild her empire. She continued to play the part of the recovering invalid, accepting Marcus's feigned concern with a placid smile. She allowed Serena to visit, to offer her comfort and support, enduring her cousin's saccharine sweetness with a chilling detachment. Every gesture, every word from them, was now scrutinized through the lens of their betrayal. She saw the subtle glances they exchanged, the quick conspiratorial smiles, the avarice glinting in their eyes whenever discussions of her health or her father's legacy arose. The first order of business was Vance Industries. With Marcus's assets frozen and his criminal activities exposed, the company was in disarray. Alara, with Chen's unwavering legal support and Liam's strategic insights moved swiftly and decisively. She presented irrefutable proof of her true ownership and Marcus's fraudulent management to the board of directors. The board, eager to stabilize the company and restore its reputation, quickly reinstated Alara as the rightful CEO and chairwoman. Marcus, confident in his slow-acting poison, continued to manage Vance Industries, believing he was slowly consolidating control over her assets. He would bring her documents to sign, explaining them with a patronizing patience, assuming her lingering illness had dulled her mind. Alara, however, read every line, every clause, with a razor-sharp focus, her mind now a steel trap. She signed what was necessary to maintain the illusion, but subtly stalled or questioned anything that seemed suspicious, always feigning confusion or fatigue. Her return was met with a mixture of awe and relief from the loyal employees who had witnessed Marcus's increasingly erratic and unethical leadership. Alara, however, was not interested in simply returning to the old ways. She initiated a sweeping overhaul, purging the company of any lingering corruption and implementing rigorous ethical guidelines. She prioritized employee well-being, invested in sustainable practices, and focused on innovation, transforming Vance Industries into a beacon of corporate integrity. Her observations extended to Adrian, her son. This was the most painful part. She watched him, searching for any flicker of the loving child she remembered, but found only the cold, entitled young man who had eagerly anticipated her death. He would visit her bedside, offering perfunctory well-wishes, but his eyes would always drift to the expensive watches on his wrist or the latest gadgets he coveted. She overheard him on the phone, discussing lavish purchases with Marcus, their voices laced with an impatience for her demise. The realization that he was a full participant in the plot, not just a misguided youth, was a searing wound. But it also hardened her resolve to ensure he faced justice alongside his father and Serena. The hidden billions her father had meticulously protected now became the fuel for her vision. She strategically reinvested in the company, expanding into new, ethical markets and acquiring struggling but promising ventures that aligned with her values. She used her vast wealth not for personal indulgence, but to empower others, to build a legacy of positive impact. Alara began to meticulously gather evidence. She installed discreet listening devices in key areas of the mansion. Disguised as decorative pieces, she activated hidden cameras, small enough to be imperceptible, in Marcus's study and Serena's guest room. She learned to navigate the digital world, setting up secure, untraceable channels to store the incriminating data she collected. She tracked their spending habits, noting the sudden increase in luxury purchases, the lavish gifts Marcus bought for Serena, all funded by the assets he believed were already his. Serenity Styles, Serena's defunct fashion label, was liquidated, its assets used to compensate the suppliers and employees Serena had defrauded. Alara ensured that every penny of the money Marcus had siphoned from Vance Industries was recovered and reinvested into the company. Strengthening its financial position, she discovered their illicit dealings. Marcus was siphoning funds from Vance Industries through shell corporations, funneling money into Serena's failing fashion business, and engaging in shady land deals that bypassed legal protocols. Serena, emboldened by her impending wealth, was becoming more reckless, flaunting her new jewelry and making increasingly arrogant demands on Marcus. Their greed was blinding them, making them careless. The process of disentangling Vance Industries from Thorn Industries' attempted hostile takeover was complex. But with the evidence of Victor Thorn's collusion, Alara's legal team ensured a clean break, protecting Vance Industries from any lingering liabilities. She even managed to recover some of the assets Victor Thorn had illegally acquired, further bolstering her company's standing. One evening, Alara overheard a conversation between Marcus and Serena, their voices hushed but audible through the hidden microphone in the study. They were discussing the final phase of their plan, a subtle increase in the dosage of her medication to accelerate her decline. They laughed, a chilling, triumphant sound as they spoke of their future, free from her presence, basking in her billions. Alara proved to be a formidable leader, combining her father's shrewd business acumen with her own compassionate approach. She was hands-on, learning every aspect of the company, and her employees quickly came to respect and admire her. She was not just a CEO, she was a survivor, a visionary, and a symbol of justice. Ilara's blood ran cold, but she maintained her composure. They were so close to their goal, so confident in their deception. They saw her as a ghost already, a mere obstacle to be removed, but they were wrong. The ghost was watching, listening, and meticulously preparing her return. She was a spider in the center of her web, and her enemies, caught in its invisible threads, were completely unaware of the fate that awaited them. The time for observation was drawing to a close. The time for action was approaching. Ilara knew that even with her hidden billions and the incriminating evidence she was meticulously collecting, she couldn't face Marcus, Serena, and Adrian alone. Their network of influence was vast, their ruthlessness absolute. She needed allies, people she could trust implicitly, individuals with skills that complemented her own burgeoning strategic mind. The first person who came to mind was Liam, her estranged childhood friend. As she sat in her father's old office, now her own, looking out at the city skyline, Ilara felt a profound sense of accomplishment. She had not only taken back her inheritance, but had transformed it into something greater. The billions of assets were no longer just numbers. They were tools for change, for building a better future. The phoenix had not just risen, she had soared, reclaiming her legacy and proving that integrity and resilience could triumph over even the darkest betrayal. The path ahead was clear, filled with purpose and the promise of a truly new beginning. With her betrayers facing justice and Vance Industries firmly back under her control, Ilara finally allowed herself to breathe. The relentless pursuit of revenge had consumed her, a burning fire that had kept her going. Now, with the inferno extinguished, a quiet exhaustion settled in. The trauma of her murder, the betrayal by those she loved, and the arduous fight for justice had left deep emotional scars. Healing, she realized, was a journey far more complex than revenge. Liam had been her confidant, her partner in mischief, until a misunderstanding during their university years had driven a wedge between them. He was a brilliant but reclusive tech genius, a prodigy in cybersecurity and data analysis, who had always preferred the quiet hum of servers to the clamor of human interaction. After her father's death, and Marcus's subtle machinations to isolate her, Ilara had lost touch with him. She began to seek solace in the simple things she had once cherished, long walks in the sprawling gardens of her estate, rediscovering the joy of reading in her father's old library, and spending time in quiet contemplation. Liam, her steadfast ally, remained a constant presence. He didn't push her, didn't demand anything, but simply offered his quiet support, his keen mind always ready to assist, his presence a comforting anchor in her new, bewildering reality. She found him in his usual haunt, a dimly lit, chaotic apartment overflowing with computer monitors and pizza boxes. Liam, perpetually clad in a worn hoodie, looked up, his eyes widening in surprise as she entered. "Ilara, is that really you I heard? You weren't well." Their professional partnership had slowly, almost imperceptibly, begun to evolve. Liam, usually reserved and focused solely on technology, found himself drawn to Ilara's resilience, her integrity, and the unexpected vulnerability she sometimes showed. He saw beyond the powerful CEO and the wronged heiress, seeing the kind-hearted woman he had known as a child, now tempered by immense suffering and strength. "I'm better now. Liam," she said, her voice steady, "and I need your help. Desperately." One evening, after a particularly draining board meeting, Ilara found Liam still in her office, meticulously reviewing security protocols. "You're still here, Liam," she said, a soft smile touching her lips. "You should go home." She didn't reveal the full truth of her rebirth. Not yet. Instead, she spun a carefully constructed narrative she suspected Marcus was embezzling from Vance Industries and had been slowly poisoning her to gain full control. She presented him with the initial, less damning pieces of evidence she had collected, the suspicious financial transactions, the subtle changes in her medication. Liam, his curiosity piqued by the technical challenge and his underlying loyalty to Ilara, agreed to help, his fingers already flying across his keyboard. He began to set up secure communication channels, untraceable data storage, and advanced surveillance systems for her. He looked up, his glasses slightly askew. "Just finishing up, ensuring no lingering digital shadows." He paused, then, with a rare awkwardness, added, "Are you all right, Ilara? Truly. Next." Ilara sought out Mr. Chen, her late father's loyal, elderly lawyer. Mr. Chen had always been a quiet, observant man, fiercely devoted to her father. He had handled the initial transfer of Vance Industries to Marcus's management after her father's death. But Ilara remembered a subtle unease in his eyes, a flicker of suspicion he had never voiced. Ilara sighed, rubbing her temples. As all right as I can be. The fight is over, but the ghosts linger. She looked at him, truly seeing him, not just as her tech genius, but as the loyal friend who had stood by her through everything. Thank you, Liam, for everything. I couldn't have done any of this without you. She arranged a private meeting, away from the mansion. Mr. Chen, she began, her voice low and direct. I believe Marcus has been systematically undermining my father's legacy. I suspect he's been siphoning funds and engaging in illicit dealings. Liam's cheeks flushed slightly. You're a force of nature, Ilara. I just provided the tools. He then surprised her by saying, Perhaps we could get dinner. Not to discuss work. Just dinner, Mr. Chen's eyes, though aged, sharpened. I always had my doubts about that young man, Miss Ilara, your father. He was a shrewd judge of character. He had contingency plans for everything. He paused, a knowing look in his eyes. He entrusted me with certain sensitive documents. Should you ever need them? Ilara's heart fluttered. It was a simple invitation, but it felt monumental. It was the first step towards something beyond business, beyond revenge. She saw the genuine warmth in his eyes, the quiet admiration, and a flicker of something more. Ilara's heart leaped. Her father's foresight extended even beyond the hidden billions. I need them now, Mr. Chen, and I need your expertise. I want to reclaim everything Marcus has stolen and expose his true nature. Their first non-work dinner was surprisingly easy. They spoke of books, of music, of shared childhood memories. Liam, usually so guarded, opened up about his own struggles with loneliness and his passion for creating, not just code, but solutions that genuinely helped people. Ilara found herself laughing, truly laughing. For the first time in what felt like years, Mr. Chen, seeing the resolute fire in Ilara's eyes, a fire that reminded him of her father, nodded slowly. It would be my honor. Miss Ilara, your father would have wanted justice. He provided her with encrypted files, detailed legal strategies, and contacts within the financial and legal world who could be trusted implicitly. As the weeks turned into months, their connection deepened. Liam became her confidant, her safe harbor in a world that had once been so treacherous. He saw her pain, her strength, her quiet moments of vulnerability, and he accepted all of it. He was not interested in her wealth or her power, but in the woman beneath the CEO title. With Liam providing the technological backbone and Mr. Chen offering legal guidance and access to her father's meticulously prepared defenses, Ilara began to build her network. She also subtly cultivated relationships with key figures within Vance Industries, individuals who had been loyal to her father and harbored their own quiet resentments towards Marcus's increasingly arrogant management. She listened to their grievances, offered quiet support, and subtly gathered information about Marcus's vulnerabilities within the company. One rainy afternoon, as they sat in her library, sharing a comfortable silence, Liam reached out and gently took her hand. Ilara, he said, his voice soft. I know what you've been through, and I know you're still healing, but I think I'm falling in love with you, and I want to be here, for whatever comes next. If you'll let me, her enemies, blinded by their greed and confidence in her impending demise, remained oblivious. They saw her as a frail, trusting woman, easily manipulated. But Ilara was no longer that woman. She was a phoenix, rising from the ashes, and with each new alliance forged, her wings grew stronger, ready to unleash a vengeance that would shake their world to its core. The time for observation was over, the time for strategic alliances, and the first subtle strikes was at hand. With Liam's technological prowess and Mr. Chen's legal insights, Ilara was no longer just observing. She was preparing to strike. Her hidden billions, once a passive inheritance, were now a potent weapon. She had meticulously mapped out Marcus and Serena's illicit dealings, identifying their vulnerabilities, and now it was time to make her first move. It wouldn't be a grand, devastating blow, but a subtle ripple designed to cause confusion and sow discord between them. Elara looked at their joined hands, then up at his earnest, kind face. After years of betrayal and a forced rebirth, she had believed her heart was a barren wasteland. But Liam, with his quiet strength and unwavering loyalty, had cultivated a new garden within it. She felt a warmth spread through her, a sense of peace she hadn't known was possible. Marcus and Serena had been funneling money from Vance Industries into Serena's struggling fashion label, Serenity Styles, using it as a front for money laundering and inflated contracts. This was their most immediate and most vulnerable illicit venture. Elara decided to target it first. "Liam," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "I think I'm falling in love with you too." Working with Liam, Elara orchestrated a series of anonymous, highly sophisticated cyber attacks on Serenity Styles' financial systems. These weren't overt hacks designed to steal money, but rather subtle disruptions. Purchase orders were subtly altered, inventory records became inexplicably mismatched, and supplier payments were delayed by mere hours, just enough to cause frustration and minor financial penalties. Their kiss was gentle, tentative, but filled with a promise of a future built on trust, respect, and a love that had blossomed from the ashes of betrayal. Elara, the Phoenix, had not only reclaimed her legacy but had found a new beginning, a new love, in the most unexpected of places. With love blossoming and Vance Industries thriving under her renewed leadership, Elara found herself in a period of unprecedented peace. Yet, the echoes of her past, the betrayal, and the trauma of her murder still lingered. Healing was a continuous process, and she knew that true peace meant confronting those lingering shadows, not burying them. "It's like 1,000 tiny paper cuts," Liam explained, his eyes gleaming with mischievous satisfaction as he typed furiously. "They won't know what's hitting them. Just enough chaos to make them question everything, but not enough to point directly at us." She began by dedicating a significant portion of her vast wealth to philanthropic causes close to her heart. She established the Phoenix Foundation, an organization dedicated to supporting victims of corporate fraud and betrayal, providing legal aid, psychological counseling, and financial assistance. It was a way to channel her pain into purpose, to ensure that others who face similar injustices had the resources she had been denied in her previous life. The effects were immediate. Serena, already prone to panic, became increasingly agitated. Her fashion line, which was barely staying afloat, suddenly faced a cascade of minor logistical nightmares. Shipments were delayed, fabrics went missing, and her small team was constantly battling inexplicable data errors. Liam, now her partner in every sense of the word, was instrumental in this endeavor. His tech expertise helped build secure platforms for victims to report crimes, and his quiet empathy provided invaluable support. Together, they visited shelters, met with victims, and spoke at conferences, sharing Elara's story not as a tale of revenge, but as a testament to resilience and the pursuit of justice. "Marcus, this is a disaster!" Serena shrieked over the phone, her voice echoing through the hidden microphones Elara had placed. "Our latest collection is delayed. Suppliers are threatening to pull out what is going on." "It's not about forgetting what they did," Elara explained to a group of survivors, her voice steady and strong. "It's about transforming the pain into power. It's about ensuring that their actions, however cruel, lead to a positive change for others." Marcus, initially dismissive, grew frustrated. He blamed Serena's poor management, her lack of business acumen. "It's just a few glitches." "Serena," he'd retort, his patience wearing thin. "Focus on the bigger picture. Elara's assets are almost fully under my control." One day, a letter arrived at her office. It was from Adrian. He was in a juvenile detention facility, serving his sentence. The letter was short, remorseful, expressing a nascent understanding of the gravity of his actions. He didn't ask for forgiveness, only for a chance to atone. But the glitches persisted. Elara, through Liam, ensured that the disruptions were just enough to be annoying, costly, but seemingly random. A crucial shipment of fabric would be rerouted to the wrong country. A large payment to a key manufacturer would be delayed by a single, inexplicable digit in the bank account number. These small, seemingly unrelated incidents began to erode their confidence and trust in each other. Ilara read the letter, her heart a complex mix of lingering pain and a surprising flicker of something akin to pity. He was still her son, in a way, even if he had betrayed her. She discussed it with Liam. Ilara also used Mr. Chen's contacts to subtly plant rumors within the financial community about unusual activity surrounding Serenity Styles. These were vague whispers, nothing concrete enough to trigger a full investigation, but enough to make potential investors wary and to put Marcus's business associates on edge. "Do you think he's truly changed?" Liam asked, his brow furrowed. "Marcus, I heard from Mr. Davies at Sterling Bank," one of Marcus's business partners said during a golf game, a conversation Ilara listened to with grim satisfaction. "He mentioned some irregularities with Serenity Styles. Are you sure Serena's business is as sound as you claim?" "Perhaps," Ilara mused, "but change is a long, arduous path, and he has a long way to go." She decided not to visit him, not yet, but she instructed Mr. Chen to ensure Adrian received proper counseling and educational opportunities within the facility, a subtle act of mercy that spoke volumes about her capacity for forgiveness. She would not forget, but she would not allow hatred to consume her future. Marcus, furious, dismissed it as baseless gossip, but the seed of doubt had been planted. He began to suspect Serena's competence, even her loyalty, wondering if she was somehow mismanaging funds or attracting unwanted attention. Serena, in turn, grew paranoid, convinced Marcus was secretly sabotaging her to gain more control over her business. She also made a point to ensure that the former employees of Vance Industries who had been loyal to her father and who Marcus had tried to sideline were given opportunities to thrive. She promoted those who had shown integrity and compassion, fostering a corporate culture built on trust and ethical leadership. The first strike was a success. It hadn't caused their immediate downfall, but it had created a ripple effect of suspicion and distrust. They were unaware of Ilara's involvement, dismissing the setbacks as bad luck or internal incompetence. They were too focused on their grander scheme, too confident in their impending victory, to see the invisible hand guiding their misfortunes. Ilara watched, a chilling satisfaction settling in her heart. The cracks in their united front were beginning to show, and the Phoenix was just getting started. The subtle disruptions to Serenity Styles had achieved their intended effect, sowing seeds of doubt and frustration between Marcus and Serena. Ilara observed their escalating arguments with a chilling satisfaction, knowing her invisible hand was at play. But as her revenge plan gained momentum, the most painful confrontation loomed: Adrian. Ilara's life was no longer solely defined by the past. She embraced the present, cherishing her relationship with Liam, nurturing her growing bookstore, and leading Vance Industries with a clear vision. She had found a way to make peace with the trauma, not by erasing it, but by integrating it into her purpose. The pain of betrayal had become the catalyst for her transformation, allowing her to forge a future where justice, compassion, and true love reigned. The Phoenix had not only risen from the ashes, but had used those ashes to fertilize new growth, building a legacy that would inspire for generations to come. Years passed, weaving a vibrant tapestry of purpose and love for Ilara. The echoes of her past, once haunting, had transformed into a powerful foundation for her present. Vance Industries, under her visionary leadership, flourished, becoming a global leader in ethical innovation and sustainable practices. She had not only reclaimed her father's legacy, but had redefined it, ensuring its prosperity was intertwined with social responsibility. Ilara had tried to deny the truth about her son, to cling to the memory of the innocent child she had raised. But the overheard conversation, Adrian's cold indifference at her supposed death, and his eagerness to inherit her wealth, had shattered that illusion. Still, a part of her, the maternal heart, yearned for a sign that he was merely misguided, a pawn in his father's cruel game. Her bookstore, the quiet corner, became a beloved sanctuary in the city, a place where people found solace in stories and connection in community. It was a tangible representation of her own journey, a testament to the power of knowledge and the quiet strength found in unexpected places. She decided to test him. One afternoon, feigning a sudden weakness, Ilara called out for Adrian. He entered her room with a sigh of thinly veiled annoyance, his eyes glued to his phone. Liam, her steadfast partner, was by her side through every triumph and every quiet moment. Their love, forged in the crucible of betrayal and resilience, deepened with each passing year. He was her confidant, her intellectual equal, and the gentle anchor that grounded her. Their home, once a place of silent suffering, now resonated with laughter, shared dreams, and the quiet comfort of true partnership. "Adrian, darling," Alara said, her voice soft. "Could you fetch me some water? My head is throbbing." Adrian, after serving his sentence, reached out again. Alara, with Liam's support, agreed to meet him. He was a changed man, humbled by his experiences, genuinely remorseful for his past actions, while the scars of his betrayal would never fully heal. Alara, in an act of profound grace, offered him a chance at redemption. She didn't bring him back into her immediate circle of trust, but she supported his efforts to rebuild his life, quietly guiding him towards a path of genuine contribution. It was a testament to her capacity for forgiveness, a choice to break the cycle of hatred. He barely looked up. "Can't the maid do it? I'm busy." Marcus and Serena remained in prison, their names synonymous with greed and treachery. Victor Thorne's empire had crumbled, his reputation irrevocably destroyed. Justice, swift and undeniable, had been served, and their downfall served as a stark warning to others who might consider similar paths. A pang of disappointment, sharp and bitter, pierced Alara's heart. "It's just a glass of water, Adrian." From the kitchen, Alara's story became a legend, whispered in boardrooms and celebrated in communities. She was the phoenix, a symbol of resilience, a woman who had faced unimaginable betrayal and emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. She had not just taken back her billions, she had taken back her life, her dignity, and her future. He finally lowered his phone, his handsome face contorted in a sneer. "Honestly, Mother, you're always so dramatic. This illness of yours is getting tiresome. Just get better already so we can stop pretending." His voice was laced with an impatience that bordered on contempt. Her triumph was not just in the assets she controlled or the empire she built, but in the profound peace she found within herself. She had learned that true power lay not in wealth or revenge, but in integrity, kindness, and the ability to transform pain into purpose. She had built a life filled with meaning, surrounded by love and loyalty, a testament to the enduring human spirit. The phoenix had not only risen from the ashes, but had soared, leaving behind a legacy of justice, compassion, and a love that redefined what it meant to truly live. Alara stared at him, her eyes searching for any flicker of warmth, any hint of the boy who used to cling to her. There was none, only a cold, entitled arrogance. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story of resilience, betrayal, and a phoenix rising, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay with us for the next one, and while you're here, check out our other videos. There's always more to explore. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments below. "Pretending?" Alara asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "What exactly are we pretending about, Adrian?" He scoffed, rolling his eyes. "Oh, come on, Mother. Don't play coy. We all know you're not exactly, well, and Father and Serena are just waiting for you to kick the bucket so we can finally get on with things. It's been a long wait. You know, all this wealth just sitting there, doing nothing." He gestured dismissively around the lavish room. The words, spoken with such casual cruelty, solidified the truth Alara had tried so hard to deny. He wasn't a pawn. He was a willing participant, eager for her demise, eager to inherit the wealth she had worked so hard to protect. The maternal bond, once unbreakable, shattered into a million pieces. This was not her son. This was a stranger, a viper cloaked in the guise of her child, a cold fury, distinct from her anger towards Marcus and Serena, settled deep within Alara. This was a betrayal of a different magnitude, a violation of the most sacred trust. She had given him her love, her life, and he had repaid her with eager anticipation of her death. "I see," Alara said, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. "Thank you for your honesty. Adrian, you may go now." Adrian, oblivious to the profound shift in her demeanor, merely shrugged and walked out, already back to his phone. Alara watched him go, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. It was a tear not of sadness, but of finality. The last vestiges of hope she held for her son had been extinguished. The pain was immense, but it also fueled her resolve. She would not just take back her assets, she would dismantle his future as well. He would learn the true meaning of consequences. This painful realization, however, also pushed Alara to accelerate her plans. If Adrian was fully complicit, then their ruthlessness knew no bounds. She needed to move faster, to strike harder. The time for subtle disruptions was ending. The time for exposing deeper secrets, for setting the final trap, was drawing near. The venomous heir had revealed his true nature, and Alara, the phoenix, was ready to burn down his world. Adrian's callous indifference had extinguished the last ember of Alara's maternal hope, replacing it with a cold, unwavering determination. The time for subtle disruptions was over. It was time to strike at the heart of their deception, to unearth the deeper secrets that would not only expose their greed, but dismantle their entire world. Then, a flicker. A pinprick of light in the vast blackness. It grew, slowly, painfully, into a blinding white. A jolt, like an electric shock, coursed through her. A gasp tore from her throat, raw and desperate. Alara intensified her collaboration with Liam and Mr. Chen. With Liam's advanced surveillance systems, she began to monitor Marcus's and Serena's communications more aggressively. She instructed Liam to focus on any unusual contacts, any coded messages, and any large, unexplained financial transfers beyond their known illicit dealings. Mr. Chen, meanwhile, delved into her father's old corporate records, searching for any connections or warnings her father might have left regarding Marcus's past associations. The grand ballroom of the Sterling mansion shimmered with 1,000 lights, reflecting off crystal and silk. But for Alara, the dazzling spectacle felt like a suffocating shroud. She moved through the crowd, a polite smile fixed on her lips, her hand resting lightly on her husband Marcus's arm. For 15 years, she had built her life around him, around their son, Adrian, believing in the sanctity of their family, in the quiet devotion she offered. She was the unassuming heiress, the woman who had inherited a vast fortune from her shrewd industrialist father, a fortune she had naively entrusted to Marcus, believing in his ambition and his love. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Liam intercepted a series of encrypted messages between Marcus and a man named Victor Thorne, the CEO of Thorne Industries, a major rival to Vance Industries. The messages were cryptic, hinting at a joint venture and market manipulation. Tonight was Adrian's 20th birthday, a lavish affair meant to celebrate the heir to the Sterling legacy. Alara watched her son, a handsome young man with Marcus's charming smile, and felt a pang of maternal pride. He was her world, her future, or so she thought. This is big, Alara, Liam said, his eyes wide as he decoded the messages. Marcus isn't just siphoning funds. He's colluding with Thorne to destabilize Vance Industries from within, likely to facilitate a hostile takeover by Thorne. A sudden headache, sharp and insistent, forced Alara to seek refuge from the cacophony. She slipped away to Marcus's private study, a room usually off-limits, hoping for a moment of quiet. As she approached the closed door, muffled voices drifted from within, Marcus's, and another, sickeningly familiar one, her cousin, Serena.